providing supports to homeless people year-round. What the province is committing to help Saskatoon provide shelter from the cold. Dismissal dispute, the information that's becoming an issue in the case of a fired officer. And getting ready for the season, how the Blades are preparing to do battle on the ice.
This is CTV News with Chantel Saunders.
Good evening. We begin tonight with a commitment from the province to help the homeless in Saskatoon. As Keenan Sorokon reports, it's added dedicated funding to provide a place for them to go every day of the year.
Saskatoon's winter warm-up locations will hopefully be a thing of the past moving forward, with the province announcing dedicated annual funding to keep doors open around the clock.
A safe place to be 365 days a year. That is an enormous and vital step forward for our community.
$3 million a year will go towards funding drop-in services, which both the province and the city hope will end the city's practice of having spaces in the summer and then winter warm-up locations like this one at St. Mary's Parish, and instead give people a place to go every day of the year.
So that we don't have a drop-in center closing and then 3 weeks, where do these individuals go? So we're going to be having those conversations in terms of making sure that there's a seamless transition in there.
Plans are far from finalized on how the funding will be used exactly, but securing funding beyond the year ahead of the coldest months not only saves lives, but it will free up police and fire for other calls.
It will save an enormous amount of time and energy and allow us to focus on the many other things that our city requires.
The funding is the latest in the city and province's homelessness partnership after funding other drop-in locations in the summer and picking a site for Saskatoon's 60-bed permanent shelter location in August. But with the homeless population continuing to grow, the Premier says the province isn't looking at other policy changes like income assistance at this time.
But this is what we intend on using. When you hear me talk about the strength of the Saskatchewan economy, this is what that economy is for.
Keenan Sorokon, CTV News, Saskatoon.
The hearing for a former Saskatoon police officer appealing his dismissal took a turn today. The officer's lawyers are alleging abuse of process and calling for immediate action. CTV's Stacey Hine has the details.
Lawyers for a former Saskatoon police officer appealing his dismissal allege there's been an abusive process and are applying to have him reinstated immediately.
It just is profoundly unfair.
That's how legal counsel for Sergeant Robbie Taylor described this week's hearing. Taylor is challenging his firing over his friendship with a Hells Angel associate. The associate cannot be named due to a publication ban. During testimony, Saskatoon's police chief Cam McBride spoke about a 2023 incident when Taylor tried to stop a fellow officer from giving the associate a traffic ticket. A report on the matter was sent to then Chief Troy Cooper, who decided not to pursue discipline or further investigation. Taylor's lawyer, Brian Pfefferly, argues they were never informed of that decision and calls it suspicious that no memo documenting it was disclosed. He says the information could have been used to question earlier witnesses and may have affected their strategy.
You really would just have to revisiting the entire case and how you would approach it. Who did Chief Cooper interview for this? Was there some problem with one of the versions of events?
The police services lawyer, Ashley Smith, said it's not unusual for there to be no memo when no action is taken. She argued the hearing was not unfairly impacted and said there was extensive cross-examination on the issue while the chief was on the stand. If the independent hearing officer rules there was an abusive process, Taylor's lawyers say he should be reinstated.
The independent hearing officer isn't sure when she'll have a decision by, but proceedings are scheduled to resume Friday morning. Stacey Hine, CTV News, Saskatoon.
One person has died and another was seriously injured following a crash in Prince Albert last night. It happened just before midnight at Marquis Road and 2nd Avenue West. Two vehicles collided. 3 people were in one of the vehicles, a white SUV. 2 were sent to hospital. The third, a 28-year-old woman, died in hospital. The driver of the other vehicle was also sent to hospital with what are believed to be serious injuries. The forensic identification section of the Prince Albert Police Service, along with an RCMP reconstruction team, are investigating. Prince Albert's Major Crimes Unit also looking for information on the crash. A 28-year-old man has been charged in a hit and run that left a motorcyclist seriously injured in Saskatoon. On the evening of July 13th, emergency crews were called to the intersection of Attridge Drive and Barini Drive, where a car struck a motorcycle. Police say as the car left the scene, it hit a pole and a traffic sign and then got stuck on a roundabout. The 27-year-old motorcycle driver was taken to hospital with serious injuries. Police were able to find the driver of the car a few days later. He is now charged with hit and run causing bodily harm. Police are looking for a couple of suspects who confronted a teen on his way to school and tried to rob him. Saskatoon police say a 16-year-old boy was walking on a pathway behind Langevin Crescent in the Pacific Heights neighborhood shortly before 9 o'clock this morning when he was approached by two boys he didn't know. They demanded the victim's belongings and pulled out a knife. Police say there was a brief struggle and the victim was cut on his head. The suspects took off without any personal items of the victims. They are described as being of high school age. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. 3 men have been charged following a drug investigation by Prince Albert Police. The Prince Albert Police Service says the investigation began in July. Officers searched 2 homes on September 11th, one on Diefenbaker Drive and one on Peterson Drive. That resulted in the seizure of crack cocaine, powder cocaine, cash, ammunition, and digital scales. The 3 men, aged 23, 25, and 27, have been charged with possession for the purpose of trafficking and possession of proceeds of crime under $5,000. Jeff, not a bad temperature today, but it did feel a bit cool.
A bit on the cool side and kind of well, it wasn't kind of a gray day. It was a gray day, so coolish, not a lot of sunshine, no extra radiant heat from that. But we have, in many respects, a warm-up on the way. And as we certainly take a look at the last part of summer and the early part of fall, things are looking really quite warm, certainly warmer than seasonal. We're still keeping our eye on this system from North Dakota and other parts of the American Midwest. It's going to be inching up and really impacting Manitoba. Still a little bit of it hitting parts of southeastern Saskatchewan. We'll have more on all of that later on.
A new survey suggests Canadians are in favor of cutting tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles if it means securing Canada's canola industry. It comes in the midst of the federal government's ongoing trade dispute with China. Sierra D'Souza-Butts explains.
Given the economic impact China's tariffs have had on Canada's canola market so far, Canadians are leaning towards making an international deal.
A lot of Canadians are looking at it and saying, even if potentially this could upset the U.S., that we want to look and potentially protect our own farmers first.
A recent survey by the Angus Reid Institute suggests the majority of Canadians are in favor of dropping Chinese electric vehicle tariffs if it means helping to secure the canola industry. Based on the 340 people surveyed in Saskatchewan, that percentage rises to 68%. The survey question was part of a larger review examining several international trade issues.
But generally, yeah, what we've seen is that Canadians do typically have a pretty unfavorable view of China, but I think there's also a lot of concern about the economic effects of standing up to China, and that this is potentially one of those cases where it's like, okay, well, maybe the economic effects of putting these tariffs in place are not necessarily worth it.
Annual canola exports are worth billions of dollars for the prairie provinces, Saskatchewan producing more than half of Canada's canola crops. Saskatchewan's government and opposition have also expressed a desire to drop the EV tariffs if it brings relief for canola.
This is a call we've been making from day one here, that the province and the feds need to be working in tandem to end those tariffs that producers are paying.
The government of Saskatchewan says Premier Scott Moe's trade mission to China earlier this month was a step towards a potential solution, responding to the survey in a statement saying the government of Saskatchewan is pleased majority of Canadians want to see Chinese tariffs on Canadian canola dropped, which is why Moe and industry leaders have encouraged Prime Minister Mark Carney to build on his work and engage directly with the Chinese government. Sierra D'Souza-Butts, CTV News, Regina.
Harvest on winter wheat and fall rye crops is now complete in the province. Rain last week slowed some operations, but overall more than half of the provincial crop is in the bin. That's still well behind the average progress to date. Harvest of field pea and lentil crops are expected to wrap up this week, while it's slow going for chickpeas. The canola harvest is also ramping up this week. The city of Prince Albert is pushing on with efforts to build a new 4,500-seat convention and cultural event center. It's billed as a one-of-a-kind project that will host everything from sporting events to entertainment shows and corporate events. But as Jasmine Pelche reports, before that can happen, the city is looking to secure funding for the facility.
Prince Albert City Council continues to work towards securing federal funding for an event center.
Government's very fluid, and priorities shift and change, so we're really feeling that time is of the essence.
At Monday's council meeting, the city decided to continue working with lobbyist Douglas Richardson.
The visit that I attended in Ottawa, there was a series of meetings with politicians that were facilitated by our lobbyist.
Not all council members were on board with the decision due to his services costing around $11,000 each month. Despite some discussion, council moved ahead with the decision to continue working with him.
He's been invaluable really, with connecting us to the federal government, and I think that's where we've lacked a little bit. Our municipal government hasn't had the right connections to get in the doors and speak with the Liberal government, and that's who we need to convince that this is a really good idea.
The city says that while there is no confirmed money to show for his efforts, Richardson opened the door for what could potentially be $15 million in federal funding from the Green and Inclusive Community Building Program. As of Monday, the city says the application is in front of the Treasury Board.
We need people to know that the federal government is listening to us. They're paying attention. They see the need for our community.
The agreement will be extended on a month-to-month basis until either $45 million in federal funding has been secured or until the city receives a clear no. The federal government told CTV it is currently in the process of finalizing funding decisions. The proposed event center will be owned in majority by the city, but Lac La Ronge Indian Band, Peter Ballantyne Cree Nation, and Montreal Lake Cree Nation will each own 15%. Jasmine Pelche, CTV News, Prince Albert.
Rail safety has hit the big screen. As Damian Smith reports, the IMAX is offering special screenings of a documentary that shows how crucial it is for trains to stay on track and for the public to respect the rules of the road.
The Saskatchewan Science Centre is helping viewers stay on track when it comes to learning about trains.
They don't realize the satellite tracking, the GPS tracking. They've got adaptive suspensions and traction control and all these things that modern trains are, just unbelievably technologically advanced. And there's a lot of science and technology and engineering and math that's involved in running a rail line.
Special screenings of the IMAX documentary Train Time have been running throughout the week, taking a behind-the-scenes look at what it's like to be on the crew of a freight train and the critical role that they play in North America's economy.
It brings material, like pretty much everything in this room, everything in a person's house was on a train at some point. So making that connection between the railway and day-to-day life is huge.
It also coincides with Rail Safety Week in Canada, which brings important reminders about how to stay safe around the massive machines.
Enforcement is another aspect, but education is the most important aspect, and bringing that to the public through every demographic, whether you're walking, riding a bike, whether you're driving a truck, whether you're on a farm tractor implement, whether you're connected to the mines. Rail safety and education is the paramount and leading.
Stats from the Transportation Safety Board of Canada show that there were 896 railway-related accidents last year, including 69 fatalities. Some tips from Operation Lifesaver, a Canadian railway safety initiative, include keeping a safe distance from railway tracks, paying attention to signage, and always taking extra care to ensure a train is not coming.
We all want everyone to make it home safe.
Damian Smith, CTV News, Regina.
Still to come on CTV News, tailgate talk grows louder in Saskatchewan, and how the Saskatoon Blades are gearing up for another big season. Following training camp and exhibition games, the Saskatoon Blades are getting ready for the 2025-26 regular season opener tomorrow in Prince Albert. John Flatter's now on this year's group that will lead the team.
The Saskatoon Blades are making final preparations before the start of the regular season, where they'll kick things off with a weekend Highway 11 series against the Prince Albert Raiders.
I expect a hostile environment, and we wouldn't want it any other way. Honestly, it's exciting. It's going to have like a playoff atmosphere here this first weekend with, going to their rink and on game 1 of the season, and then coming back here in front of 10,000 plus fans in our rink. So we're very excited to get started here, and no better way than getting with the rivalry right into it.
Final preparations include the attachment of accessories on a few jerseys. Through a team vote, Tyler Parr has been named the 64th captain of the Saskatoon Blades.
I can't even put it into words, honestly. The captains I've been with in the past, Aiden Delgrandier, Trevor Wong, Sandy, just some of my closest friends, guys that have, taught me a lot over the years, and to try to be one of those guys to, some of the younger guys on this team is a huge honor.
Last year's opening night lineup was drastically different from the one on the final game of the season. Returning alternate captain Rowan Calvert says a little familiarity goes a long way this time around.
Yeah, the familiarity is big. With that being said, we did lose some guys who played big roles for us. Just having everyone, here in September, in August, a lot of our core was brought in at the deadline last year, so just having a full year, it means a lot.
The Blades head to Prince Albert Friday, where the Raiders will raise the banner as East Division champions, something that was in the sights of the Blades until the trade deadline.
Yeah, I think that'll light a fire in our room for sure. I mean, we thought we should have been there. It was close, but we're coming for it this year. So
now that the grueling 68-game schedule begins, Calvert says he'll be helping set the example.
We're going to go in there and try and get the 2 points, no matter if it's a banner night, home opener night, Tuesday night. The goal remains the same.
The Blades return home Saturday for home opener against the Raiders at 7. John Flatters, CTV News, Saskatoon.
The idea of tailgate parties at Riders games is generating curiosity among fans. Donovan Mace on what they could look like and what would be required for them to go ahead.
With a team as connected to tradition as the Saskatchewan Roughriders, it may come as a surprise one football staple doesn't exist at Mosaic Stadium.
The right game again.
Tailgating.
He's going to have some wings.
But that could soon change. In an email to season ticket holders Wednesday, Rider President and CEO Craig Reynolds says the team is working with the government of Saskatchewan on potential ways to further elevate the game day experience. And next season, we hope to bring legal tailgating at the Mosaic Stadium footprint for Rider home games. Now, in recent history, pregame festivities have been limited to official team events like Party in the Park. And in fact, Saskatchewan is one of only 2 markets in the CFL which doesn't allow pregame tailgates. Montreal, Toronto, Hamilton, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Calgary, and on special occasion, Ottawa each allow tailgates outside their respective stadiums, leaving only Saskatchewan and BC as the outliers. However, tailgating does come with some rules where it is permitted. In Calgary, tailgate parties must be limited to 1 parking stall. Selling of food or drinks is not allowed, and tailgates must be fully packed up 1 hour after the game starts, among other guidelines, including no open alcohol. Now, in order for the Riders to change their policy, some frameworks would have to change. Saskatchewan Liquor and Gaming says a number of considerations would need to be developed, including ensuring public safety, which is a top priority. And any potential framework would require support from and close collaboration with the City of Regina for these events.
Bylaw or legally wise, I'm not sure. We'd have to look into that and kind of figure that out. And I'm sure that'd be part of the engagement when we work with them on that.
Now, the Riders say tailgate discussions and planning remain in the very early stages and are grilling up updates for the coming months. Donovan May, CTV News, Regina.
Still to come on CTV News, Jeff takes a check on your entertainment options. A look at the social scene in the coming days.
All right, let's take a look and see what's going on with our weather situation as we roll into Friday. Well, the Futurecast certainly indicating that, yes, we're going to see, a little bit of cloud cover for parts of Alberta and Saskatchewan. So there's a bit of a pattern change coming. Things will cool off in some locations, particularly in northern areas, but we are keeping our eye on this system coming up from the Dakotas, and it will likely impact parts of eastern Saskatchewan, southeastern Saskatchewan, but really about a 30% chance of showers. A different story for parts of Manitoba, which anticipate quite the soaking as we make our way into the weekend. I'll get out of the way here and we'll take a look at our almanac. 20 degrees for Saskatoon for a daytime high today. It didn't feel all that warm, but 17 is typical for this time of year, so that's still above seasonal. 31, the record temperature in 1966. It still stands, and the record cold temperature still stands as well, -6 degrees. Not in 1918. This one from 1957. The sun came up at 6:46, and it went down at 7:15. On to our hot spot. Well, yesterday, the hot and cold spot was Maple Creek for both, and today it's Val Marie with that interesting title. It happens throughout the year, but 25 degrees for Val Marie for a daytime high, and the overnight temperature was 5 degrees. So yes, Val Marie is the double winner today of the high and low. Let's take a look at tomorrow. So for northern Saskatchewan, temperatures in and around that 20-degree mark with cloudy or mainly cloudy skies. That's well above seasonal numbers. That's certainly true of west central Saskatchewan. 21 for Meadow Lake, 20 in Spiritwood. Kindersley and Rosetown both expected to be at 24 degrees. 24 as well for Leader, 25 for Maple Creek, and 23 in Outlook and Swift Current. The southwest under mainly cloudy skies. Cloudy or mainly cloudy conditions for southeastern Saskatchewan with temperatures in the high teens, low 20s. Moose Jaw getting up to 22. And temperatures of 20 degrees in Melfort on Friday, 21 in Watrous. Humboldt 19 and 18 in Hudson Bay. Hudson Bay a bit more cloud than the other locations in the that part of our map. Partly cloudy skies and 10 degrees for the Battlefords, 22 overnight. And then, as you can see, the 7-day forecast really warming up for the weekend, and the arrival of fall, 22 degrees and warming up for the first couple of days of fall. Not bad at all. For Prince Albert, dropping down to 8 degrees, 18 tomorrow for a daytime high. So a bit cooler, but then bouncing right back. Looks like it's going to be 20. I changed my mind. 25 degrees on Saturday, Sunday 27, and 21 for the arrival of fall at 12:19 in the afternoon, and then warming up significantly on Tuesday and Wednesday. And finally for Saskatoon, overnight tonight, expecting some fog patches to show up under partly cloudy skies. 10 degrees, winds out of the southeast at 15, and that's where the wind speed and direction stays for tomorrow. 22 for a high under mainly cloudy skies, and then warming up to temperatures of around 27 for the weekend. Not bad. 22 for the arrival of fall, and then 27 and sunshine for Tuesday and Wednesday. Thursday, still above seasonal at 21. Saskatoon Soap's improv comedy kicks off its newest season of live, made-up-on-the-spot comedy with I Think I Know What We Did Last Summer. Friday, 8 o'clock at, where else? The Broadway Theatre. Nuit Blanche is a free nighttime contemporary arts festival featuring projections, sculpture, music, theater, dance, and oh, so much more. That's Saturday night, downtown Broadway and River Landing. It runs from 7 until midnight. Menopause the Musical 2, Cruising Through the Change, takes to the stage of TCU Place on Sunday afternoon. The curtain goes up at 3.
Do you have a 5:30 class? Kind would you like? Anything but ballet. Let's do it!
Wednesday evening, Center Stage, a romantic drama from the year 2000, will have a special 25th anniversary screening in support of Saskatoon sexual health. The movie starts at 7 o'clock at the Broadway Theatre.
It's your dreams.
Still to come on CTV News, walking a mile in their shoes. What brought hundreds out in red heels earlier today.
Select Hair Services brought to you by Sage, the beauty bar.
Well, a sea of ruby red could be seen in downtown Regina earlier today. People donning their best red heels as part of the Walk a Mile in Their Shoes event. The walk raises awareness about gender-based violence and raises money for a local women's and children's shelter. Saskatchewan has one of the highest rates of intimate partner violence per capita in Canada.
It also gives an opportunity to show allyship and support for women who've experienced violence. And so the red shoes are that representation of walking alongside women and using our voices to speak to the issues that they're facing.
Organizers were hoping to raise $75,000 through today's event. And it looks like Their weather was kind of matching ours today.
Yeah, gray conditions and a bit of a cool pattern is coming our way. So our pattern changes on the way, and then things are going to cool down a little bit, particularly in northern areas as we head into the weekend. But look at the bounce back for Saskatoon. 22 degrees. Today was coolish, but it was gray. But then we've got ourselves some really warm conditions for the weekend. The arrival of fall on Monday at 12:19 in the afternoon, and then 27 for the first full day of fall and the second full day of fall, and not too bad for the third full day of fall.
We cannot complain, can we?
No, things are looking pretty good. Good harvest conditions, I think.
Absolutely. All right, thanks for watching.